Hi, I am Ib for Christian Filmmaker. Today we will sidestep a bit to take a look at sacred architecture and how its arcs, buttresses, pillars, statues and images can be compared to a Christian movie. One of the crucial moments in any movie is what I call a hocus pocus, a moment when things change and turn into something new, thus creating meaning. At a church service, that's the moment when the host is transformed into the body of Christ. Everything about the liturgical ritual is aimed at that specific point, the sacred climax of a Christian's week. The decorum, the cloth, the holy instruments, the tabernacle, and so on. Let's also not forget the singing, the organ playing, and the burning of incense. But the most magnificent item is the building itself, where all this takes place. It might be a small chapel, a church in the countryside, or a Gothic cathedral in all its splendor, for it is precisely that kind of setting where the play with light and color has been brought to absolute perfection. Before the advent of Gothic style, many churches were Romanesque basilicas with small windows and wall paintings inside. Churches were more seen as places of tranquil contemplation and prayer rather than places of joyful celebration. In France, though, a cult formed around St.Dionysius, also called the first apostle of France. This Christian saint is also identified as Areopagistes, which means he was present when St. Paul preached to the citizens of Athens at the rock formation called Areopagus. To make matters more complicated, there is also one pseudo-Areopagistes, the two of which have been wrongfully identified as the martyr whom the Romans beheaded and who, according to the legend, thereafter walked with his head in his hands many miles, that would make a great horror movie, wouldn't it, to the place where he ought to be buried. Now enter Abbot Suger, for that's the place where he planned to build the Cathedral of St.Denis. Suger was a believer in the then novel light cult. Light was seen as a formidable way to connect with God, and therefore a house of worship needed a completely new design. The importance of light as a harbinger of the transcendental is the first thing that the concept of a Gothic cathedral has in common with the seventh art. Film is a sculpture of light and time, while a cathedral is a sculpture of light and stone. But it is light that's the key to understanding the marvels of such an edifice. Look at all those sacred poster boys backlit by the sun. Somehow it reminds me of some vintage movie posters. Saints were the superstars of the Middle Ages. Relics like fragments of bones, hair, or paraphernalia were kept in a casket and became the centerpiece of worship. By the way, nowadays you can buy a strand of hair from a celebrity for sometimes several hundreds of dollars. In many instances, cathedrals were defined by the relics they treasured within the walls, thus becoming the destination for thousands of pilgrims. So, how is a cathedral like a movie? Well, again, it's all about light forming a narrative that connects with the realm of the invisible. As the sun moves during the day, so do the moods inside the church change, and outside, stunningly beautiful shadows glide over the surface. These shadows, too, are telling stories. Just look at the action going on here. Love, hate, betrayal, monsters, the apocalypse. It's all here. Once you learn how to read a cathedral, you understand what storytelling is fundamentally meant to be ever since the dawn of man. As a Christian filmmaker, you have the task of creating a cathedral of your own, not of glass and stone, but of light and time. Unfortunately, with film critics and theorists from the left like Walter Benjamin, Theodor Adorno, Siegfried Kracauer, the whole notion of film as a spiritual art has been disregarded, favoring a more political and revolutionary view. That should be enough for today, my friends. Have a nice week, and God bless.